welcome to Healthwatch. I'm your host, Carolyn Wilson from Ledgelight Health District. The goal of this program is to bring you information on a wide range of interesting and important health topics, and to introduce you to the people doing great work across the community. Today, I'm joined by Brian Kent from Bike Groton. Brian, welcome to Healthwatch.
Hi, Carolyn. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So I'm really excited for today's show because this is truly a topic that I don't know a lot about. So I'm really excited for you to tell us all about it. But first, I'd love to hear a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a transplant to the Groton area from Athens, Georgia, where I lived for 25 or so years. I'm not a born Southerner, though. My family moved there when I was a child, so my father could teach art at the University of Georgia. So I was a college town kid and began my career in landscape architecture and in bike riding down there in Georgia. My wife is a scientist, and she was recruited by Pfizer in the late 90s, and we moved to Groton in 1998 and have been here ever since. And in that time, I've established a landscape architecture practice, Kent & Frost, that's located in Mystic, and have become more and more involved in the advocacy side of bicycling and pedestrian issues. And so I was part of the Mystic Community Bikes organization in the early 2000s, and then joined the Connecticut Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board, of which I'm currently vice chair. And all that led naturally to the establishment of the local advocacy group, now 1 year old, Bike Groton, and my role as president. And then the rest is history. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about that. Tell us, you started telling us a little bit about the history of Bike Groton. Tell us a little bit more. How did this come to be?
Well, so Mystic Community Bikes organized and provided free rental bikes that many people will remember seeing in downtown Mystic at Bank Square Books and other places like the library, the Mystic Noank Library, etc. And the organization maintained those bikes for about 10 years and then stopped. I mean, that was Bike Share 101. And nowadays, Bike Share is electronically controlled, and the bikes have GPS, and there are large companies that are running them. So Mystic Community Bikes retired their fleet and then went kind of into just a state of dormancy for a couple of years. And then some of us started talking and saying, well, we've got this organization. We have a board of directors, we have nonprofit status. One of the mission statements of Mystic Community Bikes, MCB, was to be involved in advocacy. And we decided, well, let's take that and let's make that into the principal mission of Bike Groton. So now for really just about 1 year, we have been in Bike Groton, and we've been advocating for bicycle and pedestrian issues locally and to some extent at the state level, partly through my connections with the state board and the Department of Transportation. And so we made presentations to the Groton Town Council and the Parks and Rec Commission, and we've been reaching out to other stakeholders in the community. And that's why I'm here today.
Fabulous. It sounds a little bit like coalition work, which is what I do normally. So I'm really happy to hear about the formation of this great group. Tell me a little bit about the structure of the organization.
Sure. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have a board of directors. We have bylaws, and we just held our annual meeting this past Monday. We meet the second Monday of the month, every month. And of course, since our second meeting, we had to stop having in-person meetings, and we've been on Zoom like everyone else. And the interesting thing about this is we have been having more participation through Zoom than we were having in-person board meetings. So we appreciate it from that point of view. It allows more points of view to be aired at our meetings, and we've had some interesting members of the community. Some elected officials have attended, some people representing different organizations, like the city of Groton government has been there. Some folks from New London, from the state, have been at our meetings. So that's been really gratifying and effective. So what we have been focusing on is, on the advocacy side, we've made a presentation to the town council of Groton, town of Groton, suggesting that they consider incorporating a complete streets policy into the general operations of the government with respect to public works, maintenance of roads and parks and recreation, and maintenance and provision of trails and greenways and that sort of thing. So that's currently underway. The idea of a complete streets policy and is going to be considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission next. And for folks that don't understand or aren't familiar with that phrase, complete streets is an approach to our transportation systems, specifically our roadway right-of-ways. And when you think about it, the right-of-ways in our town are actually the largest public-owned property in almost every community. If you add up all the space that are between the property lines on roadways, it's more land than any other part of the town. And it's only focused traditionally on automobile use. And what we're advocating, and has been advocated across the country, we're playing catch up in many regards, is that space of the right-of-way be incorporated for pedestrians and for bicyclists and for people that don't drive cars. And when you think about it, there are a lot of people that don't drive cars because either they're too young to, or they choose not to, or they can't afford to. And for them, it's a real challenge to get around. And so this is just a very holistic approach to improving the transportation system so that people have more options, so that it's safe, it's convenient, it's low stress. When we talk about bike routes, we talk about low stress routes so that people feel safe riding their bikes from point to point. And in the end, it's good for the health of individuals, but also for the community at large. And you know that walking a mile is a lot more work than driving a mile. And we are all pedestrians in the end. We walk to our car, or we walk from our car to our office or school or whatever it is. And we would probably all walk more if it was safe and convenient. And that's what we are in this business. That's what it's all about.
Brian, that's so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing all of that important information. I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more when we come back from our break. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Healthwatch.
By now, you've heard the good news. Connecticut is vaccinating our residents to help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
The vaccines have been thoroughly tested. They're safe and they're saving lives.
We're now vaccinating our highest risk residents, but that's just the start.
Vacunarse le protege a usted, a sus seres queridos y a nuestra comunidad.
Getting vaccinated is how we get back to normal.
Keep checking this website to see when, where, and how you can get vaccinated.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Healthwatch. I'm your host, Carolyn Wilson, and today I'm here with Brian Kent, and we are talking about Bike Groton. So Brian, before the break, you were telling us about Bike Groton's Complete Streets project, which is fascinating to me, especially as a health educator. I haven't told you this, but I do a lot of coalition work. And what I'm hearing when you describe that is really a nod to environmental strategies for better health, creating safe places for people to get outside and be active. And it's very similar to what I do on the prevention side of things. We focus a lot on things we can do to change the community for wide-reaching effects and community health. So very excited to hear about that project. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is your project with Public Works. Tell me about how Bike Groton partners with Public Works.
So the very first initiative that Bike Groton undertook was to get in touch with the town of Groton and say, hey, we are the new kid on the block, and we are concerned about cycling safety. And we're filling a void. As we say to ourselves, we're filling a void in this town that has been empty for many, many years. Groton has made efforts to improve conditions for cyclists, but there's never been an advocacy contingency or constituency to say, we represent the residents and this is important to us. And when that happens, things are accomplished. And so we thought that we would start with low-hanging fruit. Most people that ride bikes in Groton have ridden their bicycles up and down River Road in Mystic. It's a very scenic road. You see the Mystic Seaport across the river. There's very little traffic. It's mostly just local residents and their automobiles, so you don't have commercial traffic. But it's a road that's deteriorating, and there were many hazards on the road, potholes and places where the pavement had deteriorated to the point that it could cause a person riding a bicycle to crash and be injured. So what we did was we went up and down the road and took photographs of these particular hazards, and we made a document basically with a set of maps showing them exactly where these were. We made it very easy for the Public Works director to instruct his staff to go to these places and to patch these potholes or to cut out these sections and repave them. And it was done in a short period of time, and it made an enormous difference. It just made the road much safer for cycling on. And it happened in the fall of 2019. You know what happened in the spring of 2020? Pandemic hits. The first thing that occurred was people were asked across the state to stay home. And many people got out, as you know, started walking and biking in their own community. They weren't commuting in the morning or the evening anymore. They had time for physical activity. And the bicycle and pedestrian traffic on River Road in the spring of 2020, and many times was greater than the automobile traffic. And when I was riding up and down, because I was doing the same thing as everyone else, I would count the number of people walking and biking as I went up and down the road. And it was routinely far more people on River Road than automobiles that I passed. And I was hearing this from a lot of other people. So that was a very successful project. And thank you to the folks at Public Works. They did a great job, and they've been receptive to other contacts since then. And that's what it's all about, is making a positive impression and establishing relationships with people community, and then things get done.
Right. And, you know, I think everybody here in New England knows about how those roads get beat up in the winter. We're in the midst of it right now. I think I hit a pothole the other day. So it's one of those things that people don't typically think about. So that's great that you're doing that advocacy work to make those roads safer for people to enjoy. So you mentioned the changes with COVID-19 and everybody getting outside, and certainly that's true. I know the bike shops have been super busy and people have been trying to buy bikes and fix their bikes so they can enjoy that time outside.
Yeah.
Tell us about National Bike Week and the count you did.
So this has been going on for years and years. It's just that around here, there hasn't been an organization like Bike Groton to really take the mantle. So the idea is that during a second week in September, volunteers go to places where there's significant bicycle and pedestrian traffic, set up for a period of time, and count the number of cyclists and pedestrians. And we did this in 2019, and I just kind of organized it as under my own interests. And we went to River Road again. And we went over to Noank Road, Route 215, which runs out of Mystic South towards Groton Long Point. And we measured, we counted the number of bicyclists and pedestrians. And we came back this year, well, 2020, I should say, and we did it again. And there was a significant increase in the numbers. And that increase has been recorded in just about every community. And it is just a phenomenon of what has occurred when folks are given more free time and they are looking at ways to get exercise close to home and outdoors. And when you're outdoors, you're not concerned about the issues that COVID requires you to be concerned about when you're indoors. So many people that are interested in exercise indoors or have been doing it indoors got outside, and bicycles are just about the best way to experience the outdoors and have a scenic experience. And it's also just an exceptional physical activity for cardiovascular health and for physical muscular health. And so we found that to be the case in this community. It's also borne out by the use of trails. There's an organization, the Connecticut Trail Census, that does these types of counts across the state, and they set up automated infrared counters. And so I participated in having one set up in Haley Farm on the GNS trolley trail, near the trestle that crosses over the Amtrak line. And it was counting people on the trail in 2019 for the entire year. And then it was still there for 2020 and counted 2020. And the increase year over year was almost 50%. So those are the kinds of increases that everyone is seeing across the country when it comes to people bicycling and walking. And it's a trend that we all hope continues.
Fabulous. Yeah, I know a lot of people are really enjoying that time outside. One of the things I know you want to talk to me about is advocacy. On the advocacy front, what is Bike Groton looking at right now?
So we have a couple of important projects that we are advocating for. One is a pathway or a route along the Connecticut coast, starting in Pawcatuck at the Rhode Island line and running through Mystic, City of Groton, over the Gold Star Bridge into New London, Waterford, East Lyme, Old Lyme to the Baldwin Bridge at the Connecticut River. From there, the route's proposed to continue all the way to New Haven through the coastal towns. And it's referred to as the Eastern Shoreline Path. It's on the wall behind me, is the map of it, that is. And it was first proposed by a regional plan done by the local council of governments, the Southeast Connecticut Council of Governments in 2019. And its intention is to focus bicycle advocacy and energy into a multi-town route that would benefit these small communities that are on the coast. And it would be something like a Route 1A. You know how Highway Route 1 goes inland in many places, and then there are branches that come out to the coastline, like the section through Stonington. These are 1A sections. There's actually a Bike Route 1, which is also known as the East Coast Greenway, that's under development and approaching completion. It's a multi-use trail network from Maine to Key West, Florida, and it allows people to ride their bikes through parts or all of it. And what we're hoping is that the Eastern Shoreline Path someday will be designated as a U.S. Bike Route 1A. And so we'll have people coming through Groton that are traveling along this route. And they'll be, staying in bed and breakfasts and hotels and enjoying our communities and supporting them economically, as well as providing a way for local residents to ride their bikes longer distances along the shoreline. And much of it will be on road. It'll be indicated by signage, and we hope eventually bike lanes and separate pathways and a benefit for everyone. And then the other project, a more local project and focused project that we've embarked on just this year, is to raise funds to construct what's called a pump track. It's a small circuit that would be in a town park where people of all ages can ride their bikes. And it's a really fun activity, and it's great from a cardiovascular standpoint, because you push and pull your bike over berms and rollers along a pathway. And it's a tight circuit. It looks a little bit like a skateboard park, but it's on dirt. And you can ride around and around and around without pedaling, just using pushing and pulling and gravity. And it's such a fun thing. It's just a hoot, and kids love it, and adults, once they try it as well. And just about any bicycle will work for it. So we're working on that. We're just starting out, and we're going through the process of getting permission from the town, approvals, and then we'll start our fundraising campaign a little bit later this spring. So stay tuned for that.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of that before. I've got my fingers crossed for that. I'm a fan of any activities that kids and teenagers can enjoy that are healthy, and that sounds really interesting. Really interesting. So I know that with organizations, coalitions, and community groups, public outreach is a big part of raising awareness and building capacity. Tell us some of your goals there.
So one of the first things we've done this year is we've built a website, and I encourage folks to check us out. It's simply bikegroton.org. So we have information on our who we are, what we're doing. You can buy a T-shirt, a Bike Groton T-shirt there, and you can make a donation. We're certainly accepting contributions, and you can learn more about us. We also have a Facebook page. You can find us through just searching for Bike Groton, where we're posting current information about what's going on locally and nationally in our world of bicycle advocacy. And we've just been building up to become more recognized, and that's really the goal of our social media and our outreach here, is to get the word out that we are here and that we represent the bicycling and the interests of the walking community. Currently, our board is made up of residents of the town of Groton. We don't yet have a person that lives in the city of Groton, and we're not exclusive to the town. We want to be town, city, everyone that lives in this area should feel like we represent them. So we're looking for folks from the city to get involved, and urge anybody watching, you live in the city and this is something you're interested in, to reach out to us.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I've learned so much, and I know that our viewers will too. What a great organization here in Groton. I want to say thank you for joining us. And real quick, before we end, tell us what your favorite part of being with Bike Groton is.
My favorite part has just been seeing progress in our town, in an area that has just not had much positive accomplishments. And in a very short period of time, we've done so much. And so that's very, very gratifying. It's been a lot of work, and we all put in time making these things happen, but we really feel like we're making a difference.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brian. I want to thank you so much for your time and your energy. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you right here next time on Healthwatch.